Hello and welcome to Bridges and Beacon, our midweek devotional that catches a glimpse into our lives together as we continue to follow Christ's call to be a bridge for Christ and a beacon of his love. Today I'm sitting outside DPC Sacred Ground with Peggy Stebner, who has chosen to call DPC her home. Thank you so much for being here. I'm grateful that you could take some time with us.
Well, thank you for inviting me, Becca.
Of course. So grab a cup of coffee or your favorite beverage and join us for this conversation. Thank you so much for being here. Why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. I grew up in Hatboro. I was a member of Lehman Methodist Church growing up, and my husband and I were high school sweethearts. We married at Lehman when I was 20 years old. Then we moved to Warrington when I was pregnant with my first daughter.
Yeah.
And we lived in the house in Warrington for 6 years and then moved to the current home I live in. So I've been in this house for 44 years.
Wow. So tell us how you made DPC your home.
Okay. Well, after my children grew up, for various reasons, my husband and I stopped attending church, even though we had been extremely active at Neshaminy Warwick Presbyterian Church. And my husband became ill, was ill with Lewy body dementia for about 7 years. And after he passed, I was very sad that I didn't have a church family.
Of course, yeah.
And made a decision that I wanted to find a church for myself. Tried going back to Neshaminy Warwick, but none of the people we'd known were there any longer. Mm-hmm. And I did know people had joined DPC. So I decided to give DPC a try, and I came in September of 2018.
So good. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Mm-hmm.
So you were talking about a funny story that you had about coming to DPC for the first time?
Yes. Well, I was nervous, didn't know what it would be like. But I came, I really enjoyed the service, and there was an older gentleman sitting next to me. After the service was over, he introduced himself. It was Bud Castle, who has since passed away. But he told me that he lived close to me and in the same neighborhood and had been members of this church for a long time. I told him I was looking for a church family, and he suggested to me, well, why don't you come next Sunday to the men's group? And I was like, what? He said, oh, well, there are some wives that are coming to the men's group now also.
That's an important detail. Mm-hmm.
I thought that was very nice of him, but I didn't feel quite comfortable with that. But every Sunday I came, new people introduced themselves to me, and a new members class was starting in October, and I knew this is the church where I wanted to be.
So during Bridges and Beacons this season, we've been discussing what the mission statement really means, to be a bridge for Christ and a beacon of his love, and how that caused us to think differently about how we as a church can be in the world. And so we've asked you to share some of your thoughts. And to be a bridge for Christ and a beacon of his love, we've gotten it to understand as how can we be more compassionate people towards others? And Jesus gives us so many examples of that in the Bible. And I wondered if you had a story to share that stood out to you.
Yes, I do, as a matter of fact. In Matthew 8 is when the leper comes up to Jesus. Mm-hmm. And Jesus is not afraid. Jesus puts his hands on him and he cures him. I think that is so means so much to me, because my husband had an illness that was incurable, and I truly wish that Jesus could have put his hands on him to make him whole again.
Yeah, that story certainly would stand out to you personally, because Jesus has done it for someone else, and you know that Jesus has done that in a different way for you. Thank you for sharing.
Mm-hmm.
So what was it about having become a new member that really solidified your presence and wanting to be here at DPC?
Well, actually, during COVID, and it might have been shortly before that, I got an email from Chris Rawlings, who was the new member engagement coordinator. And, very long email, and then I responded. She just wanted to learn about me and so forth. And so we went back and forth with a few emails. And then during COVID, I had to have surgery. And she learned about that, and she called deacons to arrange for meals. She called me on a regular basis to see how I was doing. She just truly gave of herself.
Yeah.
And I had never gotten to meet her until the church opened back up.
Oh, yeah.
And the first Sunday that we came to church, she happened to sit at the end of the aisle.
Oh, good.
Where my husband and I were, and we got to meet.
Yes.
It was just wonderful. I just feel that this is a very welcoming church. I really do.
And really extends that care and compassion to its members.
Exactly.
And they especially did it through COVID, hearing secondhand all of the different ways they reached out to members beyond the walls of this church is quite remarkable.
Yes, it is. It really is.
Thank you so much for spending time with us and getting to know you a little bit more. As we understand how these stories empower us to be more compassionate in the world, in what ways are you called to be more compassionate in this world and to be a bridge for Christ and a beacon of his love?